So, Alex, when you hear Mars colonization, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Honestly, Elon Musk, his name is synonymous with that vision now, and usually a healthy dose of skepticism.
Exactly. And that skepticism is exactly what we're diving into today. Because while the idea of humans on Mars is incredibly exciting, a lot of experts are saying Elon Musk's timelines for getting us there are, well, physically impossible.
Physically impossible is a pretty strong statement. I mean, we've gone to the moon, we've got rovers on Mars. What makes human colonization so much harder, especially on his aggressive schedule?
It's a fantastic question, and it really boils down to the sheer scale and complexity. Elon's not just talking about a flag and footprint mission, he's talking about a self sustaining city on Mars within our lifetimes. His projections have varied, but generally, we're looking at uncrewed Starship missions as early as 2024, first human landing mid to late 2020s, and a self sustaining city by the 2050s.
Okay, 2024 for an uncrewed Starship to Mars is next year. That feels incredibly ambitious, especially given the current state of Starship development.
It is, and that's the first major hurdle critics point to Starship itself. While it's an incredible piece of engineering, it's still very much in its early testing phases. It's far from being a human rated, Mars capable vehicle, and there are some huge challenges.
Like what? I know they've been doing a lot of test flights.
The biggest one, arguably, is orbital refueling. Think about it. To get Starship to Mars, it needs an immense amount of fuel, too much to launch in one go. So the plan is to launch Starship, then launch dozens of tanker Starships to refuel it in Earth orbit before it sets off for Mars.
Dozens. So, one Starship goes up, then maybe 8 to 16 more Starships have to launch, rendezvous, and transfer fuel in orbit. That sounds like a ballet of colossal proportions.
It's exactly that, and we've never done anything like it on this scale. It's an enormous engineering and operational challenge that needs to be perfected for every single Mars mission. If one tanker fails or one refueling operation goes wrong, the whole mission could be jeopardized.
And even if they nail orbital refueling, what about getting to Mars itself? The atmosphere is so thin.
That's the next massive hurdle. Mars entry, descent, and landing, or EDL. Starship is enormous. We're talking about a vehicle 120 meters tall, 9 meters in diameter. Mars' atmosphere is too thick to ignore, causing friction and heat, but too thin to provide enough drag for a gentle, slow descent like we have on Earth.
So, it's going to be a blazing hot, incredibly fast descent, followed by a retropropulsive landing like we see in sci fi movies.
Precisely. The 7 minutes of terror we talk about for much smaller probes like Perseverance would be multiplied for Starship. The heat shield design, the guidance systems, the engines firing at just the right moment to slow it down and land it upright. It's all unprecedented for a vehicle this size, and it needs to land perfectly every single time, especially with humans on board.
Right? Because once humans are involved, the stakes go through the roof. It's not just about landing a piece of hardware.
Absolutely. Which brings us to life support and reliability. Human spaceflight demands incredibly robust, redundant systems for air, water, waste management, temperature control, and radiation shielding. Starship is still very far from meeting these stringent requirements. We're talking about a closed-loop system that needs to sustain people for months in transit and then potentially years on the Martian surface.
And radiation shielding you mentioned, that's a huge one, isn't it? The journey to Mars is long, and Mars itself doesn't offer much protection.
It's probably one of the most significant physical obstacles. There are two main types of radiation in deep space: galactic cosmic rays, or GCRs, which are high-energy particles from outside our solar system, and solar particle events, or SPEs, which are unpredictable bursts from solar flares. Both can be incredibly damaging, even lethal.
So, astronauts aren't just getting a higher dose, they're getting different kinds of radiation than what we experience on Earth or even on the International Space Station, which is still largely protected by Earth's magnetic field.
Exactly. Mars lacks a significant magnetic field and has a very thin atmosphere. So astronauts on the surface would be exposed to significantly higher doses than anywhere else we've sent humans. This increases risks of cancer, neurological damage, acute radiation sickness, and a host of other health problems. Effective shielding is incredibly heavy and bulky, making it a huge challenge for mission designers.
Heavy shielding means more mass, which means even more fuel, more launches, more cost. It's a vicious cycle.
It is. And that's just the physical environment. Then there are the human factors. Prolonged microgravity during the 6 to 9 month transit to Mars causes bone density loss, muscle atrophy, vision problems, and cardiovascular deconditioning. We have countermeasures on the ISS, but they're not perfect, and a Mars mission is far longer and more isolated.
And then there's the psychological toll. Months in a cramped space, millions of miles from home, with no immediate rescue. That sounds like a recipe for some serious mental health challenges.
Absolutely. Extreme isolation, confinement, monotony, the incredibly high stakes, and the knowledge that rescue is literally years away. It could severely impact crew mental health and performance. And what about medical emergencies? Far from Earth, even a minor illness or injury could become life-threatening. Astronauts would need to be incredibly self-sufficient in medical care, which is a huge ask.
So we've got the rocket, the radiation, the human body and mind. What about once they land? How do they get back?
That's where in situ resource utilization, or ISRU, comes in, and it's another critical piece of Musk's plan. SpaceX intends to produce methane fuel and oxygen oxidizer on Mars from its CO2 atmosphere and water ice. This propellant plant is essential for the return journey.
So, the first uncrewed missions would have to land all the equipment to build this factory, and it would need to operate autonomously, perfectly, before any humans even arrive.
That's the plan. The technology for large-scale, automated, reliable ISRU for propellants and life support on Mars is very nascent. Developing, deploying, and ensuring its functionality without human intervention is a monumental undertaking. If it fails, the humans who arrive won't have fuel to return, no pressure there, then, right? And then there's the sheer logistical scale and cost. To build a city on Mars, we're talking hundreds, if not thousands, of Starship flights. This means rapidly scaling up Starship production, launch cadence, and orbital refueling infrastructure to levels we've never even dreamed of. The cost, even with reusable rockets, is astronomical. Who finances all of this beyond the initial exploratory phases?
That's a huge question. Governments might fund exploration, but a multi-decade colonization effort, that's a different beast entirely. And what about the ethical side? Sending humans to such a high-risk environment with limited return options.
And even before we talk about humans, there's planetary protection. Sending vast amounts of equipment and eventually humans risks contaminating Mars with Earth microbes. This could compromise any future scientific study of Martian life if it exists. Stringent sterilization protocols are difficult and costly, and for a mission of this scale, the risk is enormous.
Okay, so we've laid out a pretty compelling case for impossible on timeline. But Elon Musk and SpaceX have a track record of doing things that others said were impossible. What are the counter-arguments? Why do advocates believe this could still happen, even if the timelines slip?
That's where it gets really interesting. The biggest point in SpaceX's favor is their rapid iteration and fail-fast philosophy. Traditional aerospace companies take decades to develop new rockets. With meticulous, often slow testing, SpaceX throws prototypes up, they blow up, they learn, they redesign, they launch again, all at an incredible pace.
They certainly have accelerated the development cycle for rocket technology.
Exactly, and Starship's core design itself is a huge part of the counterargument. Full reusability is the key enabler for affordability and a high launch cadence. It dramatically drives down the cost per ton to orbit or to Mars. Orbital refueling, while a massive challenge, is designed to make Mars transit feasible without impossibly large single-stage rockets.
So, the design is sound. The execution is just incredibly hard.
Exactly, and its massive payload capacity allows for significant habitat space, supplies, and potentially even some radiation shielding mass. And getting back to ISRU, if that Martian propellant plant can be made reliable, it drastically reduces the mass that needs to be launched from Earth for a round trip, making colonization far more feasible in the long run. It's a huge gamble, but if it pays off, it's a game changer.
So, setting these audacious goals, even if they're missed, acts as a powerful motivator. It pushes the boundaries.
Absolutely. Musk's aggressive timelines, even if ultimately missed, often accelerate progress faster than more conservative approaches. They galvanize engineers, attract talent, and secure investment, and SpaceX is actively researching solutions for many of these challenges. Advanced materials for shielding, closed-loop life support, autonomous systems for ISRU. They're not ignoring the problems, they're trying to solve them.
So it's less about impossible and more about impossible on this specific timeline.
That's the core takeaway for most experts. Mars colonization itself isn't physically impossible eventually, but achieving it within Elon's stated aggressive timelines, given current technology and known challenges, is highly improbable. The scale of the ambition isn't just a quick trip, it's creating a self-sustaining city that elevates the technical and logistical hurdles exponentially.
And how do we define success here if they land humans on Mars by 2035? Is that a failure because they missed the 2029 target? Or is it still an incredible achievement that came earlier than anyone else thought possible?
That's a crucial point. For many, simply getting humans to Mars and back safely would be a monumental success, regardless of the exact year. The failure would be not making significant progress toward that goal, or sacrificing safety for an arbitrary deadline.
What about historical comparisons? Was the Apollo program considered impossible on its timeline?
That's a great parallel. When Kennedy declared we'd go to the moon and return safely before the decade was out, many thought it was impossible. But Apollo had a few key differences. It was a single focused goal, land and return. It had virtually unlimited government funding, and it didn't involve creating an entire self-sustaining city. Mars colonization is a much grander undertaking.
So, the why behind this ambition is important too. Is it just about making humanity multiplanetary, or are there other benefits even if the timelines slip?
Definitely. Even if the timelines are missed, the pursuit of these audacious goals drives incredible innovation. Technologies developed for Starship, for ISRU, for advanced life support will have applications far beyond Mars, benefiting space exploration and even life on Earth. It pushes the boundaries of what we think is possible and inspires a generation.
But there's also the role of skepticism. Is it healthy scientific and engineering skepticism, or is it just a lack of imagination, as some critics of the skeptics would say?
I think it's a bit of both, but mostly healthy skepticism. It's not saying never, it's saying the physics and current engineering realities make this specific timeline highly improbable. It forces a rigorous examination of the challenges, which is essential for safety and success in human spaceflight. Ignoring those constraints is irresponsible.
So, to bring it all back, Elon Musk's vision for Mars is undeniably inspiring. But the journey there is fraught with immense technical, biological, and logistical challenges that make his aggressive timelines incredibly difficult, if not truly impossible to meet.
Precisely. It's a reminder that while ambition can propel us forward, the laws of physics and the realities of engineering still set the pace. But even if it takes longer, the dream of Mars remains a powerful one.
It certainly does, and it makes you wonder what impossible will mean in another 50 or 100 years.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole topic so captivating.